Today's video was brought to you by Aniba.com. Aniba.com is a digital marketplace with over 20,000 digital products. And with an ever-expanding library, it's the go-to point for all your gaming needs. Aniba will bring you the hottest deals in the market on titles new or old, and with an excellent Trustpilot score, you can buy with confidence. So whether you play on Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox or PC, you're sure to find something that suits your needs. Navigation of the website is very easy. Search via operating system, game genre and region. You can also create your own wish list and grab those deals at a later time. Aniba is here to help with product activation, payment, product delivery and other issues should the need arise with their 24/7 live support. So save some money and grab a great deal with Aniba.com. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I will be doing some live benchmarking with my system. Now the Intel i9 3900K Raptor Lake is due to be released very soon, and of course the NVIDIA RTX 40 series is also due to be released very soon. So these are upgrades that I have planned on getting. So what I like to do is kind of baseline my system, see what I'm getting now, and then I'll have all this information ready to compare and see where my money's gone basically. So normally I'll do this behind the scenes, but I'm going to share it with you today. So I'm just going to go through the settings I'm using. So let's start with my RTX 3090 Ti. So I use MSI Afterburner to do my overclocking. I'm currently using the Asus XOC BIOS. That gives you an 890 watt power limit. Of course, these cards are rated to draw around 600 watt, but they can actually exceed that, even with the current one PCIe Gen 5 connector. So what I like to do is put the power limit down to 68. This will just limit my power limit to around 600 to 610 watt. If you leave it at 100, who knows what it will draw, so I don't do it. In terms of memory, my actual chip doesn't like overclocking the memory too much. I like to leave it at 500. And don't touch the voltage, it's not necessary. In terms of core clock, I go up to 130. Now, if you're wondering why my temperature is so low, I do have a completely water-cooled system. So my CPU is water-cooled and my GPU is water-cooled, all connected to a Motherboard external radiator. That's the 420 LT. It's rated to dissipate up to 2,000 watts, so it's got a lot of overhead, and it should handle this system with ease. So that's why I kind of invested in it. So that's it for the GPU settings. In terms of the CPU right now, may as well show you what I'm running. So this is CPU Z. This tells you everything about your motherboard, memory, core voltage, etc. Very, very good tool just to understand what settings your system's actually using. So I'm currently running my core clock, and this is the P cores at 5.2 gigahertz. E cores are running at 4.1 gigahertz. This is all at 1.27 volts. In terms of memory, I am running 6400 megahertz DDR5. Now it does say 32 here, but it's DDR, so it's double data rate, so you just need to times that by 2 and you get 6400 megahertz. As you can see, my latency is 32, 38, 38, 60. So it's quite tight, and it does a great job for me. So what I'll do, because these little background programs have a little effect on benchmarks, I do close them down, but I know you guys are interested in temperatures, so I will at least have core temp running while I'm running some of the benchmarks so you guys can see what kind of temps I'm getting. This does have a slight effect on performance, but a very, very small one. Let's start off with the main ones that everyone's familiar with. So Cinebench R20. I've got this to always be on top, so you'll be able to see the temps all the time. So I'm just going to run, I'm not going to do any single core scores right now, they take far too long. But I will be doing just the multi-core scores for now. So as you can see, under heavy load, the 12900K can draw upwards of 250 watt. Right now I'm drawing 250. Temps are good though, because everything's 70 or below, which is very, very comfortable for the chip. And so currently around 25 degrees ambient temperature in my room, but I do have my radiator next to my window, so you do get a little bit of benefit from that cold air coming in. So that's scored 1279. You usually get about 135, but it's a bit lower today. Maybe it's due to the core temp being up, but that's fine. So that's what I'm getting for my Cinebench score. R20. Let's do R23, see what I get for that. Of course, when Raptor comes, I expect these scores to be increased quite some bit, at least by 30%. So that would be nice to have that extra multi-core performance, especially when I'm doing very, very core heavy rendering stuff like 8K. That takes forever, and it's not all on my GPU as well. It kind of splits the load, so it's always nice to have that extra. So 29571. Again, I usually get a lot more than that, but due to having some background programs like Core Temp, it does have a slight effect on performance. So usually I get around 269 or 2700, but it does vary sometimes. But that's fine. As you can see, that passed with no issue. Max temp is 72 degrees on Core 5. I don't know why that core's so warm. I'm actually using a Thermaltake, you know, one of those brackets that hold the CPU down, because the one that you get with the Intel motherboards are quite, they do a job, but they kind of bend the CPU slightly so you don't get full contact. I watched that video with Gamers Nexus, and that was quite interesting to see how much extra performance headroom you can get with better contact. Not only that, but sometimes those cores that get a lot hotter than the others can be resolved with one of those frames. So I got myself one of those. It didn't change too much, but it did level out some of the cores being way hotter than the others. So I'm gonna put up IDA 64 now, and I'm just gonna quickly check my latency and memory performance. So this is the cache and memory benchmark. I'm just gonna start that now. So normal DDR4 6400 megahertz latency is usually around 65 to 67 milliseconds. But I've tuned this DDR5, so it should be a lot better than that. So all of these things I like to know. So when I do upgrade, I want to see if I've gone forward or gone backwards. I should be going forward, but we'll see. There's also decent for like a quick memory stability test. It does have that functionality as well. Luckily, with my X570 Unify motherboard, I actually got a free copy of IDA with the motherboard, so that was actually pretty nice. So usually you only get read, write, copy, and latency, but because I've got the full version, I'll actually get all the stats reported. As you can see, my latency is 54.8 nanoseconds, which is considerably lower than what you'd get out of a box. So all that tuning really does help. And latency really does help with your minimum FPS. And that's what the main gain is. And Alder Lake, one of the main things I've noticed going from the 5950X to the 12900K is the minimum FPS is certainly much improved, and as a result, your games just feel slightly smoother. So that's the main thing I've seen. But in overall maximum FPS, it's an average. It hasn't really changed too much. So interesting to see what Zen 4 brings to the table. Some of the early leaks I've seen have been fantastic. The single core IPC is insane. So I'm very interested to see what the head-to-head will be like with someone like Steve from Gamers Nexus and Steve from Hardware Unboxed. Those are like my go-to guys. Like for me, they're like the most solid when it comes to benchmarking, in my opinion. Okay, so just finishing the level 3 cache results now. Interesting to note that Raptor will have basically double the cache that the 12900K has, and we've seen the results that extra cache can have with gaming with the 5800X3D. So happily having that extra cache will really help things in gaming. So those are the results. You guys can compare that to what you have if you're interested. I'll try and leave a link to all the software I'm using in a pinned comment or in the description box, so you guys can compare if you're interested. So that is it for that. I'm gonna run Geekbench 5. This is one that's very always seen in leaks for early benchmark results. So it kind of just runs a package of tasks on your CPU, and then you get a score which split across your single and the multi-threaded workload. So I'm gonna run this now, and then we'll see what I get. I'm just gonna make sure core temp is closed, which it is. Let's go ahead and do that now. Most of the leaks I've seen of the 3900K and the 7950X, it does appear that this time round, the 3900K may actually have better multi-core performance, which is surprising. I didn't think they would be able to close the gap so much just with an extra 8 E-cores. Not everyone's fond of E-cores though. I understand why, but for the general tasks that I do, it actually works pretty well. I wasn't too sold on the big little kind of design, but it does work well, especially when you're just browsing and you're building a video. So often I'll be building videos in 8K and that takes forever. But it uses a hell of a lot of resources. But what's great about the 12900K or the Alder Lake architecture with Windows 11 is if you have your program that's rendering that video full screen, it will use all of the E cores at full blast, all of the P cores at full blast. If you minimize that program, it will just let the E cores deal with all of that heavy work, and then your P cores will be kind of freed up for you to use to just basically browse or do whatever in the background. So it kind of splits your workload, which is nice to see. And having an extra 8 of those when I get the 3900K will be very nice. So the test is almost complete now. As you can see, it's doing loads of different workloads, machine learning, and things like that. And you get a score. So as you can see, I got 2088 for the single core, 213110 for the multi-core. And it also gives you a full breakdown. So you can, I don't know why, but even though my CPU is at 5.2, this always reports at 5.1, which is inaccurate, but it's a really small detail. And it will kind of give you individual results for those tests that we're running if you're interested in specific results. But this is the overall. So you can see the motherboard. I think that might be the BIOS, I'm not too sure. But yeah, that's all that done. So there's another one that I like as well. This one is called Performance Test. Now you do get a 30-day trial, which I've exceeded, but you still get to use the benchmarking portion of it even when the evaluation period has expired, so it's not a big deal. So it quickly checks your system. So it's reported I've got 1 graphics card, 2 sticks of RAM, and how many hard drives? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hard drives on the CPU. So it gives you like a little render layout, which I find is pretty cool. Anyway, you can run anything from memory to graphics to even your hard drive benchmarks. I'm going to run all the CPU tests, and I'll also run all of the memory tests just to give you guys my results of those. Not going to bother with my RTX 3090 Ti because it will just, it's not a well-known test for graphics cards, so I'm not really going to do that. Not too sure how long this takes. I don't think it's too long. It's just literally those tests that you can see here. integer math, floating point math. Then it's going to go down to prime numbers, extended instructions, compression, encryption, physics, sorting, and CPU single threaded. So it gives you a range of tests, and then you get a score. And this has quite a big database, so you can kind of get a benchmark for where your CPU ranks in the world for, I don't know, maybe it's core count or whatnot. So we'll get a result at the end of this, and an overall score as well. So again, if you guys want to compare what you're getting, you will have something to go by. Let's see what I achieve. Of course, if you've got any instability on your system, this will crash your system 100%. So if you do crash, that means you got some work to do in your BIOS. So overall CPU mark is 48,236. The one that I'm interested in most is single threaded, so I got 4357 on that. And as you can see, as a percentile, I'm like 99%. So this is considered a very, very fast CPU in the general scheme of things. So obviously we know that anyway, but it kind of reinforces that. I'll do memory now. I'm gonna run all tests and see where my tweaked DDR5 6400 MHz ranks. So this will also test memory latency, available memory, write, read speed, etc. And my only criticism with my 5950X is the latency wasn't so great, and the reason being is because, of course, it uses CCDs and has chiplet design, so it has to communicate between those chiplets. So something like the 5800X would have considerably lower latency because there wasn't that kind of delay between communicating between each chiplet or each CCD, whatever you want to call it. And of course, with the 1200K, there's no such issue, and the latency reading on this is considerably lower, which again helps with your minimum FPS. Now that Zen 4 is using DDR5, it'll be interesting to see what kind of latency it's getting. So I'll be interested to see what the readings for either 64 and other programs like this actually achieve. So down to the last test now, which is the memory threaded test. Don't remember this being too long, so it should finish very soon. Again, if you've got memory instability, you could get a crash here as well. Okay. So I scored 4,306. Memory latency on this is 18, which is pretty low. And available RAM, of course, it's saying I've got 28 gigabytes basically, but the background Windows task is using around 4 gigs, so that's why it's not 32. But anyway, in terms of percentile, as you can see, this is very, very fast, pretty much faster than 99% of the stuff out there, which is really nice to see. Okay, now I'm going to run CPU Z. This does have a built-in benchmark, which has a multi-threaded and a single-threaded workload, and it gives you a score as well. So very quick test, and not too strenuous. It should give you an idea of where your CPU stands. Okay, for me, I got 12,283 on the multi and 846 on the single threaded. From what I've seen of the leaks, Raptor does around 925, I think, on the single, and 16,000. 16,000 on the single on the multi. So it's quite an increase. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that actually translates into performance. Okay, so I want to round things up now with this Final Fantasy 15 benchmark that we run it at the high quality preset at 3840 by 2160 full screen. So in my experience, the RTX 3090 would score.
You're good. You're good. You're
It would be an overclocked RTX 3090 can get over 9,000. And a 3090 Ti should be getting around 9,800 or something like that. But my one's water cooled and overclocked with an XOC BIOS, so I get usually over 10,500. So it'll be interesting to see what the RTX 4090 can get on this. Final Fantasy 15 is still quite a very demanding game, as it has very, very expensive AO implementation. Plus, you need at least 12 gigabytes to use its HD textures properly without having issues. So there wasn't really many GPUs around apart from the Titan X, and of course now we've got pretty much the 3080 Ti, the 3080 12 gigabyte version. So as you can see, with the XOC BIOS, you're regularly going to be drawing over 500 watt. I know this is quite alarming for most people, but generally that's what it looks like we're going to have to be getting used to if you want to stay at the high end or have the enthusiast level cards from NVIDIA at least. I'm not too sure how AMD's new products are going to be like, but I remember seeing a leak from Igor's lab and he had a PCB layout that showed 3 PCI Express power connectors, and that's going to be at least drawing 450 watts, so it's not going to be far off the mark. So I think all of the high-end GPUs going forward are going to be using a lot of power, which is ironic because power at the moment, especially in Europe, is costing more than it ever has, which is not great, and price is set to increase even further.
It's showtime.
So far temps are pretty decent. I haven't seen it exceed over 50 degrees yet. So when I built this water cooling loop, it was to kind of control a GPU that can go up to 600 watts, so I've definitely got headroom available. As you can see, just hitting 50C now. That was kind of one of the most strenuous parts of the test, where you hit like 540 watt. This part of the test is a little bit less strenuous. As you can see, drop back down to 45 degrees. So it's just those fine margins. You start pushing 400, 550 watt, you're going to be definitely going to be running over 50 degrees. But if you start pushing 490, 480, you can comfortably maintain under 50 degrees on ambient temperature of around 25 degrees. So all in all, I think my cooling solution is very, very high performance. But it's yet to be seen what these new monster GPUs can really draw. Hopefully they don't exceed more than 600 watt, but there are talks of an RTX 4090 Ti potentially drawing up to 800 watt, like the full fat. So it'll be interesting. I don't know if my cooling solution, or I don't know how that will handle it, but it'll be interesting to see. But I wouldn't want something to draw that amount of power. That's just insane. So hopefully those are just crazy rumors. So 4 o'clock maintaining around 2175 at this point of the test. And as you can see, drawing out 450 watt and comfortably maintaining around 40 to 46 degrees. So very happy with the So pretty much bang on where I would expect, just over 10,500. And I can get more than that. I can get up to around 10,700 or more, depending on how far I want to push my card. But this is like a everyday kind of conservative overclock, and that's what I achieve. So that is pretty much it, guys, for the test. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.